It looks like, oh, we have someone else coming in to join us now, so that was perfect timing. All right. So good morning, everybody. Officially, good morning. I'm Tracy Borden. I'm one of the residency counselors here at Hillside Village, along with the others on the marketing team. Judy Francine is our director of marketing. And then we have Joy Peterson here, who is our health center marketing and outreach coordinator. And I will introduce, well, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make introductions all the way around right now. So we have Amanda Littleton joining us today. She's the district manager of the Cheshire County Conservation District. And so she will be participating in the discussion along with two of our residents. We have Marty Post, who was the driving force behind applying for the grant that we received to start our pollinator garden. And then Judy Palmer, also one of our residents, who is, are you the chair, Judy, of the Landscape and Grounds Committee, or you're kind of heading that up, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay. So, and I know that everyone is really here to see the meadow and hear about the garden. So I'm just
okay. The invite's in your email and it works.
Just going to do a quick little kind of setup and quick little 30-second or so commercial about Hillside Village, and then we'll move right into the presentation. So if you're not already aware, Hillside Village is a not-for-profit life plan community. We're for seniors age 62 and up. We offer independent living as well as on-site long-term care. And we're located on a very, very beautiful 66-acre campus, which gives us many, many opportunities for outdoor activities such as walking, hiking, gardening, or just simply being outdoors and enjoying all of the benefits that come along with that. So if there's anything about Hillside that you don't know or you would like to know more about, any of us on the marketing team would welcome speaking with you more about that later on. And with that, we'll just continue right into the presentation. So today we're talking about our Meadow Walk, or our Meadow Loop as we sometimes refer to it. And so this is an area of our campus that is quite naturally beautiful. So we're going to be talking about some of the natural beauty of it, as well as some of the things that we would like to do to enhance that beauty. And so I'm just going to read to you a brief description that our Trails Committee has written about this area. The Meadow Walk is a flat, accessible stone dust oval. It's a 1/4 mile around. It's about 4 feet wide and has the grass mowed on either side for about 6 feet. Some of our residents belonging to our woodworking group built and installed 4 birdhouses in the center of the oval, and we do often see bluebirds coming and going from those houses. We have a shelter with benches, which allows for some shady rest along the way, and there are benches elsewhere on the perimeter, allowing for other stops. A woods borders one side, which you can see in this photo, and then Blackbrook borders another side, and we have 8 maple trees in the meadow that were planted about a year ago. Our residents are able to access the Meadow Loop via a gently sloping path down from the residences and across a newly built wooden bridge that spans the Black Brook. So that's probably about all I need to do to set the scene for you. So now we're going to take you on a little walk and show you for yourself. This next part of the presentation is a slideshow that will just advance on its own, just showing you some of the natural sights, and hopefully you'll be able to hear some of the sounds also. And there are, some of the slides have some little bullet point items on them, just some little facts about Hillside Village, but we tried not to be distracting just so you can enjoy the beauty. And then once we watch these slides, I'm going to bring in Amanda and Judy and Marty to talk a little more about some of the plans that we have moving forward. So enjoy this part. Okay, there might have been one or two that looked like the other, but we won't talk about that. So I hope you enjoyed some of the images of the meadow and you're able to hear some of the sounds of the birds. And that's really what it's like when you're out there in person rather than virtually. So as our name suggests, we're built on a hillside and we look out onto the expansive meadow with the Black Brook running through it. And other than the oval that we are talking about today and the small gazebo, it's really an area that we have not developed at all. So as we began kind of looking into how to do this presentation, Marty shared with me that, you know, the grant app, or asked me to look at the grant application, and I learned in reading the letter that was sent along with that, that this idea came as a result of a walk on our property with the Cheshire County Forester, Steve Roberge. And so as they were doing that walk, an idea began to form about potentially adding a pollinator garden to the meadow area as a way of attracting more pollinators, adding to the overall experience that people would have while they're out on the meadow. And everyone at that time agreed that it would probably be a very good fit for our field. And then a few months later, a little more happened. And so Marty and Amanda, this is where I'm going to bring you in to talk about little about what happened next. How did this all come to be?
Okay. Well, actually, we've been here well, since February 1st, 2019, when the place was, main building was still under construction. And we looked around and said, well, what a beautiful site this is. And other than the bulldozers and everything else running around for the main building, and you know, it seemed like it had a lot to offer for residents. And at that time, I think there were 3 apartments, and there were 5 of us actually. Anyhow, as time went on, I got involved with the Trails Committee, and I had seen an ad in the paper, knowing that we were trying to do things to help improve the area and make the experience for the residents more enriching. Had seen this ad that the Cheshire County Conservation District was offering grant applications for pollinator gardens. I said, oh, okay, well, I can do that, I guess. And I linked up with Amanda Littleton, and we had numerous discussions on, whether it would be appropriate here, and she gave me a lot of guidance, and ultimately resulted in coordinating an application, mainly among the Trails group, and finally reviewing it again with Amanda to make sure we had all the proper information, submitting it in the end of February, because it was due March 1st of this year. Of course, we had a lot of concerns, but in February or in March, actually, we had little issues like the virus shutting things down. But in any event, we went forward, and Amanda and the Conservation District reviewed our application, and they had decided that, gee, that was a fit with what the Conservation District was looking for a pollinator garden. And they also realized that because of the shutdown from the virus, that the initial timeline for the projects couldn't really be met. And they decided that they would extend the timeline because of the virus into next year, the end of next year, essentially, which works out very well for us, because we really can't get out there and do the kinds of things we'd like to do until we could meet with Amanda and meet with some of the Conservation District people, and really go over the project in more detail and get their thoughts and their ideas as to how this project would fit in with their ideas and their goals, as well as with our goals. And been chatting with Amanda. We gave her some pictures and the like, and hopefully we'll be able to get together soon, at least to go over the project and in more detail. And we're really counting on a lot of support and a lot of insight into how this how we should really proceed with the project. There's various options of plantings of how we can do it, and whether we use seeds, whether we use
Plugs.
oh yeah, plugs.
Right. So initially, what can you give us just a brief little description of maybe the size and the scope of what we're talking about?
Sure. The project, the grant application, we got the maximum amount, which was $1,500, which we have to live with or live by. And based on that, we were looking at an area within the loop trail of maybe 25 feet by 25 feet, or something in that magnitude. Part of it is would be a function of the cost of the plugs. Part of it would be what we can do within the grant. And we looked at several options of plantings, and additionally possibly some pollinator shrubs and some pollinator trees. And we got to we're going to get together to go over the project in that light. It could grow a little larger than that initially, but we expect that the kinds of plantings that we're looking at would not only attract the butterflies, bees, birds, etc., but it would have the capability of expanding either naturally or as a possibility of additional funding or support came along to increase it in size. We looked at it somewhere in the middle of that meadow, and we looked at being able to draw some water out of the brook initially to get the project started in terms of getting the plants growing. But we're looking at the types of plantings that would be self-sustaining. And that's pretty important because we really don't want to bring in permanent water lines and whatever into that area. So we look at some temporary watering, and although there's a possibility in a severe drought, I suppose, to do something additional, but we're looking at self-sustaining kinds of plantings. And that's pretty much it. One of the nice things about that location is that it's viewable from virtually all of the balconies within Hillside Village, and we looked at it as not only the benefits to as far as pollinators, but to have some beauty and some focal point of folks looking out over that meadow from their balconies, as well as visitors looking at it as well.
Right.
We're planning on cutting a path to it, just be a mode path, so that as people walk around the loop trail, they could walk up closer to the garden and take a look at it. If we wind up planting things like blueberry bushes, well, that's an added incentive for people to go out there and perhaps pick some blueberries. But by and large, it's there mainly for attracting birds, bees, and various types of sundry insects. We probably put up a few additional bird houses, to attract perhaps a different variety of bird. Hopefully we'll get some hummingbirds, and we're really looking forward to starting this project as soon as we can.
Right.
And that's really about all I have to say at this point. But
yeah. And we can absolutely bring in Amanda and Judy as well. I know I've gone through a couple slides here talking about some of the benefits, some of the reasons that we might want to proceed with a project like this too. So
I wanted to just say, I think thanks to your initiative as a resident, Marty, it's going to bring together a number of residential groups, not only the Trails Committee who are interested, but the Landscaping Resident Committee. And it's been a nice opportunity, I think, for me as a single resident to get to know some other residents in those groups and the expertise that lies there too. And another thing I wanted to say, a lot of us have had to become more knowledgeable about pollinator gardens because of this initiative. And we did invite, we had an opportunity to invite someone, a very knowledgeable local gardener, Michael Neary, who came to speak with a group of us that included our greenhouse committee, which is an internal room that we use in the winter, with the Trails Committee, some of the Trails Committee folks, and the Pollinator grant folks. So that was a nice opportunity, I think, for residential cooperation.
Yeah, and the project, would also be open to outsiders, perhaps some school groups or other individuals, because of the way where it lies, on the property here. There's access right off of Wyman Road. There's a little parking area there, and certainly has the opportunity for folks to come and observe what we've done, up close and personal. And I think that's also important.
I know one of the things that's important to folks as well is we have a number of birders that are residents, people who love to do nature photography. I mean, as we've been talking with you and then the folks we talked to last week about the hiking, the trails and things, it's becoming very apparent that there are many kind of branch out benefits that come from something, you know, what just seems like one idea, a pollinator garden, but yet there are all these things that can come from pursuing that. So I know the birds is one of the things that people have brought up. I think a lot of people have become more avid at bird watching this particular season. It's been very entertaining.
I did see a hummingbird this morning over by the straw bale gardens too.
Oh, nice. Oh, we could have included a hummingbird in our photos here. So, but we do have a number of birds already making their home on the Hillside campus, due to the nature, the natural habitat, of course, but the birdhouses have definitely helped with that, I think, from our woodworkers, which is great. So, all right.
We do have some resident killdeer too.
We do. Oh, and there's one of the birdhouses right there. So, oh, Judy, I know this was something that you wanted to talk about, was plants that we already have on our property that are native and kind of growing here naturally without planning and planting a garden.
Yeah, and I certainly don't know all of them, but around the Loop Walk in the Meadow, I know we have several varieties of honeysuckle, elderberry. We've seen wild roses, of course, I'm afraid. But I think they do pollinate some things. And then, of course, some other wetland plants. Well, quite a lot of, I think it's called bird's eye trefoil, yellow, that a lot of clovers, milkweed, of course. Did I say that?
You mentioned vetch yesterday, which
yeah.
I was not familiar with as well.
Yes.
So.
Cow vetch, I guess. Of course, goldenrod, Joe Pye weed. Those are some that I've noticed, certainly.
So we've already got a good start, I think, and it certainly the area just kind of lends itself to what we're thinking we want to do, and I think you know, there's a lot of possibility. We have a slide. Actually, it's the next slide coming up. Maybe someday we might have something that looks like this. So this is just some examples of what a matured pollinator meadow may look like. And as Marty stated, even though we're starting with a smaller area, that doesn't mean that it can't grow and spread beyond that. And I can almost picture the birds and the butterflies and the bees in these photos here. So
yeah. If I could just jump in. So the Conservation District, we are really excited to be working with you guys at Hillside Village, because we think this is going to be a really exciting project to add diversity to what is already a beautiful meadow and a place for recreation. So it'll be great for adding beauty to a site that a lot of people enjoy, but adding diversity for the bees, to enjoy. It'll bring in a lot more species as well, and like you're saying with the birds too, a lot of them eat insects, so everybody will be pretty happy on that end. But I think one of the things that we do when we look at pollinator habitat to see like what is existing there currently, just like what you and Judy were just discussing, like there could be pollen and nectar sources throughout the season is the idea. Like you want to have, the goal would be to have pollen and nectar sources from spring all the way through until the fall. And so you'd like to evaluate, okay, what already exists here? How do we improve the diversity so you can ensure that the bees and other pollinators and insects have what they need to thrive all year long. And so a lot of times it's getting different morphologies of flowers, different colors, and having them so there's blooms, always blooms throughout the season. And there's other things too that can be done to improve pollinator habitat that we can look at at the property when we do a site visit, beyond just the planting, sometimes it's just leaving open ground in certain areas, like leaving some brushy areas, or if you have raspberry canes, leaving those open and cut, because so many of our native bees really are ground nesters, or they nest in stems of existing plants. So I think it'll be really fun when we do the site visit with, we'll come with a few different folks who have a lot of experience with ecology of the area, to sort of look at what the existing structures that you have in the field are and see what we can do to augment it with the dollars. And I love your idea of trying to build on it too. Like, this is a small amount of money, $1,500. It's, I think, a great building block to get it started, and it'll be wonderful to see if it isn't something that we could partner on in the future to get more dollars to continue to build on for Hillside. And so we're really excited about this, because it's something since probably, I've been with the district since 2007, but we really started getting excited and working on pollinator habitat in around 2013, 2012. And since that time, we've been doing education, pollinator habitat installations, and as well as monitoring, trying to figure out what bee species exists in the area. And one, oops, sorry, my phone's going off, it's really loud. Out of my reach to get, hope it'll end soon. Okay, sorry about that. One of the things that we've really noticed as we've done these habitat installations is that the species has really increased. We've had entomologists come out and monitor, and in 3 sites that we monitored over the course of 3 years, it's amazing how many bee species exist in one area. We had 95 different species of bees found in these 3 sites. And oftentimes, you know, you think, all right, we got bumblebees, honeybees, you know, like, but you can't kind of count up, okay, 95 different species of bees just in these 3 sites in Cheshire County. So I think it's really exciting when you start to add the diversity of plants and habitat features. It'll bring in a lot for enjoyment on the property as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited hearing you talk. And I mean, I was already excited before, but it just brought in another aspect for me about the relationship, and that what we can kind of build there, and what we're creating, not just for our community of Hillside Village, but for our greater community. I think it's a real, it's going to be a benefit for everyone, the bees and the people. And
yeah, and I think that's one of the things why we started this Conservation Opportunity Fund, to try to give out small grants to landowners of smaller tracts of land, because we wanted to be able to create models. You know, it's really exciting when neighbors can see what can be done in an area. So if Hillside Spring becomes a model, it would be great for other community groups and properties to say, like, oh, we can do that too, and, you know, sort of enhance the wildlife habitat of the county.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I know we have a number of residents that care deeply about maintaining the natural native wildlife plantings in this area too. So the pollinator garden will be really a nice.
I know I recognize a few faces from last week's presentation, and as we were on that, you know, it was obvious from the residents who were involved in that last week, talking about the building of the trail and the enhancing of what was already there, and, you know, protecting the plants. There were, you know, even if it, you know, ferns and some of the natural things that were in that area, and you could feel that importance to them as well. So it's just, it's exciting that there's that kind of passion going on all over our campus in different, for different reasons. So I'm going to move this next slide here kind of, and we don't need to get into maybe a lot of detail, but one of the questions that was asked is what needs to be done? What's it going to take for us to accomplish, you know, this goal, the initial goal of maybe doing the garden and then moving beyond that. So I don't know if there's anything that you want to say regarding that.
Well, obviously the biggest initial part of this is to decide on the particular area the meadow that we want to concentrate on. Once we do that, we can sort of lay out, a process of what we're going to need to do. As far as preparing the ground, whether it's using a straw mat to type of product in order to sort of kill some of the the grasses in the area in order to get these pods started, or whether it should be a different type of initial ground processing, whether it needs to be tilled, whether it needs to be tested for pH of the soil or other nutrients in the soil, and then kind of decide with the conservation district on what types of pollinators would go well in that area. Obviously, they'd be all native is what we're looking for. We're also looking, as Amanda stated, for those kinds of plantings that are going to, flower throughout the season, from the spring through the fall. And the other aspect of it is, how we're initially at least going to get some water, over to that area, because it's certainly going to need it, at least at the outset. And possibly pulling some water out of the Black Brook, or look at other options that we might have for initial watering. But the goal is to set up this garden to be self-sufficient in terms of needing additional watering or whatever, except for perhaps emergency situations if we have an extreme drought. And then the issue is going to be availability of some of these plantings. Many of the greenhouses or gardening facilities, they sell out pretty early on some of this stuff. So that's going to be an issue too, and we'll have to look into. And hopefully Amanda can help us out in that area and find suppliers that would be willing to work with us to get us what we need at the time we need it. Ideally, we'd have started this project quite a while ago, but as I mentioned earlier, the virus has sort of interrupted our ability to get started and to work together, not only within the community, but work within the district and others as well. So we're looking forward to that. And in addition, we do have, and I guess this is going to come up at another time, other areas within the facility here, like for instance, where we had planted the straw bales near the barn, which may also be suitable for some other plantings that would help support the veggies and the like that we have planted in that area. And there's also planned for for other plantings of veggies and that may need a little pollinator help on their own, and just to get all these ideas as we go along to look at the kinds of things that would be really helpful to us. So yeah, we're excited to get going, and we're kind of chomping at the bit to get started, and we look forward to doing it as soon as possible.
Right.
One thing I'd just add for expectations of what a pollinator garden is that sometimes they take a little while, right? So one thing that we're interested in doing is getting perennial plants established, perennial herbs, right? That are going to be coming back year after year, as Marty had said, and Judy had mentioned, that we don't want to be watering them, right? We don't want to have like heavy water resources. So native plants that are can tolerate the conditions of our area. But the thing about perennials is that they often won't flower the first season you plant them. If you're planting them by seed, or even sometimes by the plugs, it takes them a little while to sort of really establish with their root systems and get going. So I think one thing we just want to, when we talk to folks at Hillside and other residents, to be really open and transparent about is it might not be this gorgeous pollinator meadow in year one, but by year two, you're going to start to see a huge diversity of different types of flowers. And the goal is that if you do it right the first time, even if it takes a little longer, you're going to have a beautiful meadow for years to come that will evolve and have different flower species focused throughout the season. So I just like to sort of bring that up for expectations sometimes. And one thing that we will do is if Marty and Judy and others are interested, is we can work with you to get a bunch of annuals planted too, maybe into some of the mix, to allow for that pop of color, to give people an idea of what it could look like once the perennials will get established too. So we're eager to sort of visit the site and see what your goals are, so that way we can try to help you meet those goals.
Awesome. Awesome. Managing expectations is always good. I know one of a couple of points that I know were important to you, Judy, to make a note of are like what you're looking at now, opportunities for people to sit, enjoy, rest. We have a number of benches. We have a number of features already existing along the trail, the path, that are inviting to folks already. So I think anything that we're talking about doing is just going to further add to that as we go along. So let's see. Oh, timeline. We kind of already touched on that a little bit. It's been affected by COVID, obviously, and we're excited to move forward. And I think that it's already in process. We're just maybe not quite as far along in the process as what we had hoped when we started.
And we're really flexible with the timeline. We want you guys to feel like you can do it when it makes sense for you to have people out there working on it and enjoying it. So whenever makes sense is when we want to be able to support this. So if it goes through next year, if you need more time through the year after that to sort of get the site prep right, get everything established, we're happy to work with you.
Awesome.
Good to hear.
Yes, I loved this photo with this question. Our long-term maintenance and sustainability. our watering system there. And so we end with just another beautiful shot of some of the natives that are already existing. And then I just want to move it into a time for folks being able to ask questions and just discuss a little bit more if there's something that you heard or saw that you'd like to revisit. So you can definitely unmute yourselves at this time, and we can talk a little bit more. So we may have to. So
everyone is unmuted on this side, so
okay.
They just have to unmute themselves.
Okay. All right, so a couple of you, it looks like you still are working on unmuting, but if anyone has a question that you'd like to pose at this time or a comment, please feel free.
I got in a little late.
Mm-hmm.
Did you show an overview of that whole plot with the whole trail and the meadow?
We didn't show
it on or not.
We did not really, Jerry. We didn't have a map available to us for that area yet that was worthy of showing. It's something that our trails committee is working on, another map similar to what you would have seen last week on our presentation. But no, we didn't show the overall area. We do have some resources for that we could show if you wanted to see at a different time. We could send a general idea of the area.
That's all right. It's not important. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Anyone else? You guys, you did such a great job, Amanda and Marty and Judy. Nobody has questions.
It's a great plan.
Thank you. I think, no, I just want to say, to me, there's an excitement being so new and seeing our residents so passionate and excited to be the kind of, you know, the idea people and the people who are making things happen, you know, whether it's working with a local resource like Cheshire County Conservation, or whether it's working with our facilities staff. Our facilities director is a master gardener. We have a landscaper on our staff, so they're excited to kind of work together with residents on this. And it's just an exciting thing to be a part of as we're figuring out kind of where we go from here, as we're a young community. It's really, really fun.
I don't know if it's worthwhile to try and hold up the, you know, the picture that was in the application, which highlighted, you know, what the area that we're talking about. I can hold it up in front of the camera. I'm not sure
Right.
it'll show, but let's see
Yeah,
what
I
we
don't know
got here.
whether.
Marty, could you point to where the buildings are, where the residents' wings are?
Back here. It's hard to see backwards here.
Yeah.
Let me point it down, take it down a second. Okay. Let's see. These are some of the, you know, the buildings here.
And then with your other hand, show where the meadow
Upward.
is.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And we'll get to the Meadow Trail here. Oops. Let's see. Not working that well.
Right, right. We can always provide that if anyone is interested.
Right. Yeah,
We can
yeah.
give it.
Okay.
So.
That's
Does
probably why it
anybody have
wasn't
any-
included.
I would be curious to hear if anybody had any concerns about the project that we want to make sure we address, or the flip side of that, anything you're looking to see get out of this.
There was one concern that was sort of expressed. The gazebo that you saw earlier in the site has a tendency to attract bees and the like to make nests there. So, which obviously created a little bit of an issue with the folks that were walking along that trail and sitting in the gazebo. So for that reason, we would propose to keep this more towards the center of the of that area, so that you know, the bees, birds, whatever, would not tend to try to congregate right along the trail or around the sitting areas directly, but yet, you know, have the opportunity through a mowed path for those that wanted to get a closer look and actually, you know, really look at the garden and take pictures, etc.
I wonder, I don't know, I'm learning, Amanda, if we're providing alternate opportunities for bees to nest and birds to build nests, would that help to offset that at all? Or are they
Yeah,
just
I mean,
gonna pick us
definitely.
off
By
for
doing
it?
this planting, there will be more nesting. More
Right.
nesting opportunities, but because, you know, like I had mentioned earlier, when we've done these surveys and there's 95 different species, they all have different needs and what they're
Right.
looking for nesting. And so some of them will be ground nesters, some of them are cavity nesters. You know, some of the wasps are just that can be tricky because nobody wants them in the gazebo. I understand. I don't want them in my shed, my shed either when I'm going in and out of there, even though I love pollinators. So I do understand trying to sort of cause some separation there. And I think that's great that you're going to be the mowed path idea, you know, so that way people can still access it and get close, because it is really nice to be able to when you don't have concerns about allergies to bees, which I know can be a concern for a lot of folks or a few folks, and so when you don't have those same high levels of concerns, to be able to access it, because it is quite beautiful to be able to get close to the butterflies and the moths and the bees and everything, that all the different insects that it will attract. And most of them are not going to be aggressive, truly. Most are not. but I do respect and understand that some people have a healthy fear of wasp and bees, and I think putting it towards the center makes a lot of sense, just to keep it so we're not irritating them by traffic on the path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, we appreciate you being here today, Amanda. We're really excited about this, and Judy and Marty for adding your voices to this. I think that you are able to speak to the things that people are interested in about Hillside in a much different way than what we are in marketing. So it's nice to have us kind of all here doing this together. Just want to mention to everyone that we do have next week, we're doing the third of our series, which is the Grow Your Own Future presentation at the same time, same day next week. And so that will focus a little more on the gardening that is currently taking place and then moving into the future, and how we plan to establish some more rooted gardens for sorry. And Judy will be joining us again for that, because she's a very big part of making that all happen. And then the following week, we've added that we would like to do a virtual coffee hour. We did one of these a couple of months ago. It was a great success. And we thought, why not try another one again for folks who've been coming to these events, this event series, and we can just all get back together and chat and see if maybe you've thought of questions, or if you'd just like to maybe get to know residents a little more and us a little more in a more informal setting. So that's coming up on July 7th at 9 in the morning, and we'll be sending out an invitation for that as well.
One thing, could I just add for the gardening folks that are interested in gardening, one thing that the Conservation District partnered with last year is the Keene Public Library. They now have a tool bank for gardens through the Keene Public Library, and we got a grant through the district, and we bought a bunch of tools that are there to borrow, and a lot of them are adaptive tools too that are really useful for folks who have different levels of ability, for whether it's arthritis or whether it's like bending down to the ground for different things. So if folks are interested in trying them, they're free to use, to just borrow. And so I thought I would just mention it. And there's also, they have a great free seed library too. If
I got
anybody's
some free
interested.
seeds from the library for my straw bales this year.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Yeah, and I know the library has been closed, but I know it is opening back up, as everything is opening back up, and they're doing, I think, curbside pickup too for the tools and the seeds. So just throwing that out there if you're interested in trying different seeds or trying different tools. And they will also have free cover crop seed for the fall too, to help improve the garden's health. If you're interested in that, we'll be happy to give you more information.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. So this is just, if you'd like to talk to any of us a little further, Judy and I would be very happy to talk with you about independent living at Hillside Village. Joy would love to speak to people if you are interested in assisted living or memory care, or if you know of someone who is, she would love to be able to chat with you. So we love to chat with people. We love to talk about Hillside Village. And that's it. So we really appreciate all of you joining us today. I hope that you saw something here that you found interesting and exciting or inspiring, and hopefully we'll see you again at another one of our events.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Well.